Chapter 5. Finally, Thursday after school came. "We'll go through my talents alphabetically," said Margaret. She went to a shelf and pulled down her accordion. She looked at my hands, and then she looked at the keys. She put the accordion back. "Fingerprints," she said. Then she handed me her baton, which I dropped. "Baton twirling's out." "How about your clarinet?" I asked. Margaret shook her head. "Spit." "D is for dramatic acting class," she told me. "Pretend you've just heard some surprising news." I clapped my hands to the side of my face and made my mouth a capital O. "Dramatic acting's out too," Margaret decided. E was for writing English, and Margaret said I needed a horse for that. F was for fencing, and she said I wasn't mature enough to touch her sword. I was losing hope, but then finally, when she got to T, she brightened up. "Tap dancing." "Tap dancing's easy?" I asked. "Oh, no," she said. "Tap dancing is really hard, but maybe you could fake it. Maybe you could just kind of clomp around in tap shoes, making a lot of noise." "I can clomp around," I agreed, "so I just need some tap shoes." "You can wear my old ones," Margaret said. Then she took me into her closet, which looks like a clothing store. Everything is all folded perfectly and hung up in neat lines. In Margaret's closet, you expect to see signs saying "Big sale on sweaters" or "New fashion arrivals." There was a whole wall of cubbies just for shoes, and every pair was in its own plastic bag. I pointed to the bags. "How come?" "Germs." Margaret shuddered and made a face like she'd just swallowed a toad. "In or out?" I asked. "In or out what?" "The germs. Are you keeping them in or out?" Margaret glared at me as if this question was too dumb to bother with, but I don't think she knew the answer. She picked out a bag and started to give it to me, then stopped. "Have you washed your hands? You have to wash your hands." She pointed to the bathroom. I went into her bathroom, which is hers alone, and she doesn't even have to share it with a brother like I do. Margaret's bathroom looks like a bathroom store. Okay, fine, I've never seen a bathroom store. But it would probably look just like this, except it would have price tags on the faucet and the soap and the toilet paper. I looked at my hands. They looked really good to me. Plus, they felt just right. Not too slippery, not too sticky, and best of all, they smelled perfect. A mixture of my new drawing pencils and grape bubble gum. It's hard to get your hands to smell perfect like that. So I only pretended to wash them. I have invented a good way to do this. First, you run the water. Then you hold the soap under the faucet so it gets wet, then put it back. Then you get the towel. Here is the tricky part. You can't get it too wet, but you can't leave it dry either. So what I invented is this. Dab the towel into the wet sink just a little bit, then hang it back up, but rumpled this time. I did all this, then walked back into Margaret's room and took off my shoes. Margaret's eyes grew so big I thought they were going to sproing out on stalks like cartoon eyes. "Clementine," she gasped, "your feet are huge." "Shh," I hushed her, in case Mitchell was hanging around listening to us. Margaret put her foot next to mine. "Well, they're as big as mine now. These aren't going to fit," she warned me. I tried to fit my feet into Margaret's old tap shoes anyway, but it was no use. I felt very emphatic about Cinderella's stepsisters. I was so sad I flopped down on Margaret's bed before I remembered the rule about that. "Wrinkles!" Margaret screamed. She ran over and pushed me off the bed, then smoothed the bedspread, which has poodles wearing hats on it. So I sat on her chair to be sad there instead. I studied the bottoms of Margaret's tap shoes. If I nailed something tappy into the bottoms of my sneakers, that would work, wouldn't it? I just need to make the sound, don't I? "Well," said Margaret, "I guess. I'll be right back." Then I took the elevator all the way down to B for basement because I knew exactly what would make that tappy sound. Once a month, all the people who own condominiums in our building get together to argue about what things they need to buy for the building and who should pay how much. They drink beer at these meetings. My dad says this is not such a hot idea because then they forget what they decided. But he's only the manager of the building, so he can't tell them what to do. He just lets them keep the beer in his basement. And all those beers come in bottles with bottle caps. I got a pliers from the workbench. Let me tell you, it is N-O-T, Not easy to get 24 bottle caps off with a pair of pliers. But finally I did it. Luckily, most of the beer that spilled soaked into my clothes, so I only had to mop up a small puddle. Then I went back to the workbench. I got out my dad's building manager strength super glue and glued all the bottle caps to the soles of my sneakers. All the while, I kept smiling whenever I thought about how happy everyone would be next week at the meeting because their bottles had already been opened. When I was done, I put my sneakers on and a good surprise happened. It was hard to walk, but when I did, I sounded exactly like a person tap dancing. I pushed the elevator button for the 5th floor so I could show Margaret. The elevator stopped at the lobby floor, and Margaret's mother and Alan got in. Alan is Margaret's mother's boyfriend. Margaret and Mitchell are not so happy about this because Alan kisses Margaret's mother in public. Margaret and Mitchell think there should be a rule about grown-ups kissing in public if any of them are your parents. This is the only thing they have ever agreed about in their entire lives. "Hi there, Tangerine," Alan said. Alan thinks he is funny. I do not. Alan sniffed the air as if he were smelling something weird. Then he bent over and sniffed me. "What the—" Margaret's mother bent over and sniffed me too. "Beer," she said. She reached out and stabbed the stop elevator button, and then she punched the button for my floor. "I think we need to pay a little visit to your parents, Clementine."